If you take a look at this limit, that is pushing ratio test. And when I look at all of the following and think about what's going to work when it comes to ratio test, this is the one that looks best because that means that a sub n is behaving near geometrically where r is 3, and that should end up giving me a 3/5 when I look at the actual ratio test. But let's actually do it and make sure. Limit as n approaches infinity of the n plus 1th term times the reciprocal of the nth term. Now when I'm looking at the ratio of a sub n plus 1 over a sub n, I know that that is approaching 3. Then from there, I'm working with 5 to the n over 5 to the n plus 1 is actually just plain old 5. So really, I could take that divided by 5 outside the limit and get that the answer to this limit was said to be 3, but then I multiply that by 1/5 and I get 3/5. Less than 1, ratio test says converge. So that is C. If you want to see why the others don't work, throw each of them into the ratio test. So I'll go ahead and show that. If I'm looking at A, then I'm literally asking limit as n approaches infinity of the n plus 1th term over the nth term. That's 3. That's greater than 1. Ratio test says diverge out. Then if I use the second one, a sub n over n to the 5th, the n plus 1th term multiplied by the reciprocal of the nth term. And I want to be aware that the ratio of those two is heading to 1. And then I'm looking at the answer to this limit that I know is 3 times 1, and that's greater than 1. Diverge. So the second one is definitely out. And we've got one more to take a look at. Just to make sure. Limit as n approaches infinity of the n plus 1th term divided by the nth term or reciprocal multiplied. We have again the issue of we're left with a 1/5 in that situation. And then what I'm left with is a sub n plus 1 over a sub n quantity squared. You know, I don't need those absolute values looking at the fact that it tells me a sub n is greater than 0 for all n. So now what I can do is bring out one of my limit laws. And if I have an exponent inside my limit, that exponent can go outside my limit, and I can first figure out what is the answer to this limit. And we know that the answer to this limit is 3. So that means that the actual limit that I'm using for my ratio test is 1/5 times 3 squared, which is 9/5, which is greater than 1, and I diverge.